Boys, welcome to the first ever Free Hills podcast. We might have a name. It sounds like there's rumblings that there is an official name, Pesh. What are we naming this thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think in honor of, our tradition and our fucking biggest fuck up in the league, we go with Get Fucked Tree Hills, aka GFTH.
Yep, this will be the Get Fucked Tree Hills podcast. The GFTH podcast will nail that by the end of the season, I'm sure. You've got your commissioner here, Hassett. I'm joined by Alpesh Patel, regrettably the current Dynasty leader. And
if you
Bill
didn't say it, I
Struthers
was going to say it.
Of course. It's the only time I'll say it in the introduction episode, and maybe in a league history episode, but we'll give you those props now. And then, Bill, what's your title?
I think I'm like second or third place all time.
There you go. I think you might have. Do you lead in championships? You don't. But you're up there. You're in third right now. I'm in fourth in the Dynasty standings. All right. Here's what we're going to try to do with this thing. We're going to try to put together clearly a video podcast. We'll have a few segments. We're going to try to kick off each episode with a recap of the week prior, scores, waiver, anything news and noteworthy. From there, we'll have a few segments. Today's episode, we're going to focus on Pesh's hot takes. We're going to do a little buy-sell across the league, and Bill's going to debut his power rankings. Bill, give the group a teaser. Is Fenchy's team in seventh?
Spoiler alert, he's better than that.
Wow. Okay. So Fenchy's team not in seventh in the week one power rankings, debuted by Bill. We'll get to that in a second. First, we kick it off with a week one recap.
Before we do our week one recap, I think we have to do our new tradition.
Thank you. Yes. Unfortunately, regrettably, we will be taking a shot to kick off the episode. I was overruled on this, but you guys are already poured. Well, these fake backgrounds are going to fuck with this a little bit.
Yeah, keep it in front of your body.
What are we drinking here?
I got some Casamigos.
This is some whiskey, some bullet whiskey.
Got some Reposado tequila. Yeah, this background fucks. Okay, cool. All right, cheers, boys. Episode one, this will probably be a mess. We'll probably fail a bunch of times, but we'll give it a go and hopefully do a few of these throughout the years or throughout the season.
Cheers.
The truth serum.
The truth serum. Man, look at this background. Really fucking with my shot glass. Can't even see. Oh, yeah. Oh, it tastes good.
Real smooth.
All right, cool. All right, we're going to kick things off. I'm going to do a quick week one recap. Bounce it over to you guys for some lightning round instant reactions before we get into Pesh's hot takes. All right, cool. Kicking us off. Week one, let's start with a little DH and Mac matchup. So DH wins week one, 415 to Mac's 318. We'll start with the loser, McIntosh. I mean, rough week for Mac, 52 points out of Geno Smith. Otherwise, pretty average across the board. Running back, wide receivers all coming in, 34 points. Nick Chubb looked good. Chig, Chig? He got 0 points out of tight end. Overall 388, an underwhelming output from Mac. Over on DH, he did win. Obviously, big asterisks here. He loses Aaron Rodgers for the season. We'll talk a little bit about whether or not that'll, derail DH going forward. But otherwise, I mean, he gets to 415 on the backs of Tua. Tua puts up 170 points. DH takes it down 415 to Max 388. Bill, your instant reaction?
Yeah. I mean,
Mac.
I'm not sure why you picked to lead with this game. Maybe you picked it because it was the worst game of the bunch.
That's obviously why I picked it. We're starting with the worst. We're starting with the garbage of the league.
I mean, kind of embarrassing that DH got a win with only 415. I don't know, Mac. I hope you get a rematch later in the season.
All right. Pesh?
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's crazy. You can get 0 points from a quarterback and win in this league. I mean, to me, that's jarring. To your comment, Chig Okonkwo is tight end from University of Maryland, a fellow Terp, so I do know him well, and I don't think we'll be seeing another 0-pointer from him again.
All right. Well, we'll certainly hope not. We did start with that matchup because it's clearly the garbage of the league. Slightly better matchup number two. We've got Fenchy 577 over Dooley 332. The pizza buyer. It doesn't look good for Dooley. Running down the roster. Mahomes, he didn't look great. Still puts up 100 points. Gets a 0 out of T. Higgins. That's not going to happen again, right? So let's not overreact there. 5 points out of Jerick McKinnon, but overwhelmingly, below average, I would say. Najee puts up a subpar outing. Cam Akers puts up an okay outing, but might have lost the job in the process. We'll see. Dooley puts up 332 points. It's not good. Fenchy, on the other hand, hey, we got optimism for Fenchy. Big week out of Calvin Ridley, 70 points. Big week out of Brandon Aiyuk, 100 points. The quarterbacks looked good enough, right? Fields only puts up 80, but obviously shows some headroom there. 577 for Fenchy. Pesh, your instant reaction.
I mean, this is what we thought, coming out of Dooley for the last few seasons. I'm surprised when I see more than 400 from Dooley. And, Mahomes can only take him so far. Kudos to Fenchy, looks like a pretty solid roster there.
Well, anything to add?
I just want to say, it looks like Dooley's in a little bit of a rebuild. He's got Mahomes there, he's a vet, but CJ Stroud, maybe Dooley's planning for the future.
Dooley's been trusting this process for about 10 seasons now, right? Three builds been on for a minute.
Yeah, I think Dooley's planning for tomorrow. I think if Dooley's thought about last year, or if Dooley's thought about next year, I'd be pretty shocked. But hey, you've got Mahomes, so there's optimism there. All right, third matchup of the week. We're gonna go to my matchup. So Hassett 631, the pizza getter. So Dooley will be sending me a pizza at some point in the near future. Sean 443. We'll start with Sean. I mean, Josh Allen, obviously a subpar outing, 56 points. That's not going to happen again. Sean's team didn't look too bad across the board. It's, you got 30s and 40s pretty much across the board. Madison, 41 points. Mostert, 42 points. Keenan Allen, 39. But 50 points from Josh Allen, a 0 at the tight end position. Just not going to do it. 443 points for Sean. And then the big score of the week, obviously my team, 630 points on the back of Tyreek, 160. And obviously the Cowboys defense Sunday night was a nice treat, 140. At the expense of Dak, obviously didn't have to throw, puts up a 40. We'll see what we think the trends there. Big score of the week also comes with big injury. Obviously Dobbins, a huge keeper opportunity there, late round, out for the year. Big time bummer. Any other thoughts from you two?
I mean, I've seen more goose eggs. We've seen goose eggs in every matchup. I mean, what's happening?
Weird, right? A 0 out of Drake London, a 0 out of Goddard. Very odd.
0 out of what's your other guy on there? Drake London,
Drake London, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this matchup is surprising to me. I mean, Hassett always has a pretty solid team. I'm gonna expect a little bit more out of the Allen brothers. I think coming into the draft, right after the draft with the keepers, I think Bill ranked Sean pretty high. And
well, I did.
We're all a little bit surprised.
I did. I ranked Hassett and Sean, I think, tied for second place. And so for me, this was the matchup of the week. And it was really interesting to see, they both put up a lot of points. I mean, 443.
I don't know if that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, 443 for Sean. So a little on the low end there. But this was my matchup of the week, and Hassett came out and delivered.
Disappointed in your matchup of the week.
Going over we'll go to Pesh and David next. We'll save Kurt and Bill for last, given the Monday night drama there. But Pesh beats David, 537. David, 442. I didn't love David's team coming into the season. He puts up a 440. Doesn't feel great. 4 points at Christian Kirk. David went to bat for Christian Kirk this offseason. 20 points at Dameon Pierce. David went to bat for Dameon Pierce this offseason. So it's not a hot start. Obviously, Bijan, a bright spot there. But 441, not going to do it. Even though he thought maybe he could do it, Pesh ends up with about 540. Has a good night down the stretch there. Burrow, 23 points. Can't be happy about that. Also, don't imagine that happens again. But got to be thrilled with the running backs. Travis Etienne, Tony Pollard, they both look legit. Deshaun looked not great, still put up 90 points. So you'll take it. A victory over David, 540 to 440. Pesh, your thoughts on your team, your matchup with David Stinger.
So I think one thing we didn't go over this so far is, just to recap, this is a rivalry week, and
yes,
really feel that rivalry week when it comes to me and David. There's been some heated discussions between the two of us leading up to this rivalry week, and
I must have missed that.
It wasn't just for the cameras, right? This wasn't just like an HBO promo. I mean, this was heated, this was personal, and the cream rises at the top. That's all I got to say.
All right, there you go. Last matchup of the week, Bill. We're gonna give this one to you as soon as we're done here. The closest matchup of the week. Curtis ekes out a win, 484 to Bill's 467. Bill, you can't be happy with 467. 70 points out of Jalen. Lamar looked decent. 40 points. That was a joke. He looked garbage. The Ravens are okay. Chase, Jefferson, obviously, got to be maybe an all-time keeper, having an incredible 2 to 3 year stretch, continues to put out You get to 470. You had some gaps, Amari Cooper here and there. You hope Jalen can do better. Derrick Henry looked pretty solid. I didn't even mention Aaron Jones. Massive game from Aaron Jones.
Massive
Uh,
game.
but Curtis comes in, the Monday night game, we had the matchup of Dalton Kincaid versus Stephon Diggs. Diggs, obviously, with the advantage coming into that matchup head to head, but he wallops Kincaid enough on Monday night to take the lead, ends up winning by 17. So a good win from Kurt, especially with 25 points out of Daniel Jones and only 80 out of Stafford. So a low quarterback week. Diggs shows up. Austin Eckler, of course, shows up. Devonta Smith had a nice game as well. So Kurt takes it down in a close one. The Monday night thriller, it went into overtime. Bill thought he had a chance because every time the Bills got the ball and Kurt needed points, so did Bill. But it didn't happen. A big week one loss for the rest of the league. Sad for Bill. I'm sure he'll brush it off, but a big number in the loss column for the league. Bill, tell us about it.
Yeah. So Curtis and I were texting while this game was happening. And we both knew that when the Bills got the ball back on that final drive, or was it I think it was the final drive before overtime, garbage time. And we knew that Diggs was going to win it there, and sure enough, he did. It was disappointing, but then Curtis texted me after, and he was like, "You know what, Bill, you're a great team. You're going to get a lot more wins this season. I might not." So I appreciated that honesty out of Kurt.
That's cap.
I'm sure that's a real text that happened. That sounds just like Kurt.
I actually have it. But anyhow, it was a close matchup. I'm not mad about it. Did I want to win every single game this season? Yeah, but it's not going to happen. You win some, you lose.
Did you think you were going to win every game this season?
I thought I had a shot.
Of you that thought you were going to go undefeated this season?
Dude, yeah. I don't know. I talk a lot of shit.
That's fair. Hey, that's fair. Pesh, any thoughts on Bill's close loss to Kurt?
I'm happy about it. Yeah, let's move on.
A big win for the league. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, last part of the week one recap. We got a quick waiver recap. Big bid of the week, $25 on Justice Hill. I talked earlier about, the unfortunate injury to Dobbins. Justice Hill, I think he started this season number 3 on the depth chart. Hard to tell. Getting the goal line carries. I don't know. You guys are the Ravens fans. The next closest bid, though, that's probably the part that stings. A bid from me at $4. So, but you might have overpaid a little bit. $21 over the next closest bid. Zach Wilson was the other big name. $23 to Kurt, I believe. Yeah, to Kurt. That one was a little closer. David in at 17, DH in at 15, Bill in at 8. So Zach Wilson for 23, Justice Hill for 25. How do we feel about those costs? How do we feel about those players?
I think blowing your load for $23-25 this early in the season, that reeks of desperation. These aren't quality players. These aren't people who are guaranteed, point getters. I look at that and I chuckle. Not my thing. More power to him. You got Zach Wilson. Perfect.
Man, spoken like the dynasty leader right there, Outtakes. Dude, look, there has not been a running back since Ray Rice, who has been for the Ravens, who's been worthwhile. Really to hold. So I don't know, a little surprising, but
What about Lamar Jackson?
There you go.
Definitely counts. Running back on the depth chart. Okay, cool. That concludes our week one recap. Before we get into our next segment here, Pesh's hot takes. Any lingering thoughts from week one? High level, who's your league winner? You don't have to say me just because I want a pizza. Who's your league loser? Who if you're someone else besides yourself, who's feeling really good about their team right now?
I think league losers got to be probably Mac. I mean, unfortunately, it wasn't a great outing, and then bad news for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah,
he's. I don't know. I'm not happy if I'm the defending champ, and that's where I'm sitting right now.
For
yeah,
sure.
There you go.
For sure.
Bill, how about on your end?
Winners, I would say Fenchy. I mean, he put up 577. I know it's not the high score, but it's pretty damn good. So I'd say Fenchy.
Yeah, well, and little spoiler alert, we're going to talk about Fenchy's team here in a little bit. All right, Pesh. First segment of the week. So as we go through the season, we'll kind of integrate a few different types of segments here and there. We're kicking the season off. Pesh's hot takes. Pesh, you got 2 thoughts for us. We're going to chat about a little bit. Bill's going to give his thoughts. I'll chime in. Hopefully we disagree a little bit. But tell us a little bit about Pesh's hot takes. What's your number one hot take here coming out of week one?
I think, in a week where the league was down, globally, NFL low scoring. I think Hassett made a comment in the Slack, after the first half, like no one's fucking putting up points. And, even in that week, it's still a quarterback league. This is a quarterback driven league. It took me seasons on end to finally admit that. I've been on the running back trail for mantra for years, and it's quarterbacks. This first week, 8 of the top 11 scorers are all quarterbacks, and some of those numbers, some of those people are people you don't expect. Look, you got Mac Jones up there, Jordan Love, Anthony Richardson. I'm not saying they're going to keep doing this week in and week out, but like even these guys are putting up more points than Justin Jefferson and all those other guys. Like you got Anthony Richardson putting up big points, and he's a rookie. He can just run the ball, And with that said, like who's got Anthony Richardson? Sean. I think Sean's got a very deep quarterback stable, and I think he might be the deepest team quarterback wise in the league, driven by quarterbacks. I'd look out for Sean. I look out for the Seanzy.
Yeah, I think Sean does come down with, let's see here. He had Anthony Richardson, I think was the QB6, Trevor Lawrence, QB8, Brock Purdy, QB12, and I haven't even talked about Josh Allen yet, right? So Sean is looking pretty deep at quarterback. It does go, to question a little bit on, not to question, but just to chat a little bit about draft strategy. I mean, Josh Allen, number 1, Trevor Lawrence, his 2nd round pick, Anthony Richardson, his 3rd round pick. So first 3 highest draft collateral go quarterback. Seems to have yielded early results, but a loss week 1. Bill, what are your thoughts on Sean's quarterbacks?
Well, you can only start 2 quarterbacks at a time, right? Unless I'm mistaken. So Sean's getting a lot of points out of Richardson on his bench.
I think that's a valid point. You can only start 2 quarterbacks. He's got good trade value there.
Sometimes you got to roll the dice a little bit, and sometimes it works out in your favor, sometimes it doesn't.
Gosh, your second hot take. Let's shift a little bit away from quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the league at large. One of your surprises for week 1. Go ahead.
We're looking here at Fenchy, Team Fenchy. I look at his team, during the draft, wasn't too impressed with it. And, week 1, Justin Fields didn't super perform, but again, had that floor. And he's got a lot of depth. He's got McCaffrey, Aiyuk, Ridley. And so you can argue some of these guys did pretty well, better than you'd think they would. But, I think the solid team's got my boy George Kittle. He didn't have a huge game from Jahmyr Gibbs, but if you watch that game, that guy pops. He pops on tape, and I think he's gonna put up more points than he did. So my hot take is like look out for Fenchy. He might not finish in 7th this year.
Might not finish in 7th is a pretty low bar, Bill. Where are we willing to say more than he will not finish in 7th? What are your takes on Fenchy's team?
I'll say Fench is far better than 7th, and his quarterbacks. I just talked about how good my quarterbacks are. His quarterbacks might be up there with me and Sean.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, I think before we move on. So Fenchy, obviously the big weeks out of Brandon Aiyuk, Calvin Ridley. You mentioned a lot of 49ers, right? So is there a point in which that offense stalls where Fenchy's team comes and goes? Who knows? I think verdict's still out a little bit on Justin Fields. Like I love him. Chicago loves him. We'll see if he gets enough throwing volume to be a sustainable quarterback, or if he does run like he did last year and have those 150-point weeks. But yeah, great outing from Fenchy. You got to feel optimistic. Just to remind everyone, it's because it's an incredible stat. Fenchy's finishes. Let's read them right to left: 7, 7, 7, 8, 7, 10. I mean, just an incredible lineup.
It's not trending in the right direction, is it?
It's not going in the right direction either. But week 1, maybe a reversal. Maybe we're now in the right direction. Bill, before we get to power rankings, we're going to do a little bit of lightning round, do a little bit of buy sell. I'm going to go through a few players, a few trends that we saw in week 1. You guys are going to tell me if you buy it. You guys are going to tell me if you sell it. We're going to chat this through a little bit. So let's kick things off. We talked about him a little bit briefly. Dooley's team, number 1 overall pick, Mahomes, comes in, buys a pizza. Buy or sell? Mahomes is good enough alone to get Dooley to the playoffs. Let's start with you.
I'm selling that all day. I mean, Mahomes is good. Dooley's astronomically bad. I think Mahomes stays healthy, propels him to maybe 8th, 9th place. I mean, I don't really know if this guy's, how many transactions does he do in a season? Maybe 2 or 3, if that. There's very little rebuilding going. There's very little bit of talent influx coming to this team. I think what you saw this week is what you're going to see for a couple weeks straight, probably for most of the season. I'm a sell. I'm sorry.
Bill,
You know,
what do
it's Pesh, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I'll buy that. I mean, I think Patrick Mahomes, we talked about floors earlier. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to he had 100 points and he looked terrible. So I think his floor is 100 points. I think that means Dooley he only got 330 this week, but I don't know. T. Higgins is not putting up a 0 again. So I'll buy it. I actually kind of like Patrick Mahomes with Dooley. I think he'll make the playoffs.
Wow.
you think he'll make the playoffs? I think it's a bold statement. Dooley also, I mean, we talked about Fenchy's run. Dooley's not that much better when it comes to playoffs. Let's see here. We'll do a quick spot check. 7, 9, 10, 8 last 4 years. 4th place in 2018. Could really use a Mahomes turnaround. I think I'm selling. Sorry, Dooley. Mahomes is a stud. I got to see a little bit more from this team. I do love Jalen Waddle. I think T. Higgins is very good. It's going to be interesting to see where this team goes. The running backs I'm not in love with. So I'm going to sell as well. Okay, buy, sell. Bill, we're going to start with you this time. Buy, sell the Dolphins. The Dolphins, a massive week. Big win against the Chargers. Tua, 170 points. Tyreek, 170 points. Do you buy Tua, a top 5 quarterback the rest of the week? And do you buy Tyreek Hill as the number 1 overall wide receiver at the end of the season?
I'll sell both of this. I mean, I don't know. This Miami offense, right? It comes down and it puts up 36 points. Is that what they scored? I mean, I don't know. They're hit or miss. I don't trust them. I don't know. I think they're still a couple of years away from being like really dominant. So I'll sell both of those.
Josh, what are your thoughts on the Dolphins?
That's a sell for me too, actually. I think there's health concerns there. There's, Tyreek isn't gonna do this every week. I mean, he'll do it every now and then. I don't think he's do it weekly. I think Dolphins have a good defense, keep them in some games. I think Tua is pretty decent, but no, it's Tua,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I am going to I'm going to sell to it too as well, just because I'm not sure. I think they're going to try to run the ball if they can, but I am fucking buying Tyreek, number 1 wide receiver end of season. Heard it here first. En route to a championship. Jokes aside though, Tyreek has the ceiling capability to be the number 1 easy. So I'll buy him as a chance for the number 1 wide receiver, simply because I think there's going to be weeks where Tua only throws to he throws 10 times to Tyreek, 10 times to Waddle, and they both get $150. But I think he'll surpass 100 a few times. We'll see what happens. Let's talk a little bit about David's team. How do we feel about Bijan? Top 5 running back rest of season. He ended up top 1 after week 1. He looked good doing it. He also split time with Algiers. Didn't seem to matter from a fantasy production standpoint. How do we feel about Bijan? Pesh, why don't you kick us off? Bijan Robinson, top 5 running back rest of season.
Easy buy. Bijan Robinson, he's what you call, he's got that pop factor. You see him on film, you see him in person, this guy pops. He's strong as hell, fast as hell, shoots well. And in a time in the NFL where, you're not drafting running backs in the first round, he got drafted in the first round, high overall. I had NFL GMs call me, and they don't draft NFL running backs anymore in the first few rounds. They don't re-sign them for big money. They just keep drafting running backs in the 3rd round, 4th round. They're interchangeable. They retire after a couple of years. This guy's coming on the scene. He's got 2-3 years, and he was a first overall, first round pick. I'm buying.
I mean, I hear you, Pesh, but I'm going to disagree. I'm going to sell that. I had Tyler Algier last year, and let me tell you, that guy can run. I watched some of the games, and I think he's good. And I think the Falcons are crazy. I know they're a running club, but it's crazy to have 2 running backs that good. So I know they're going to split time. Bijan, what is that, French? What is that? Bijan mustard? What does that even mean? Bijan freeze? I don't know what that means. I don't see him being top 5.
So you don't see him being top 5? You mentioned the Falcons. They ran the shit out of the ball. It's wild. We'll see if Ritter throws a pass this season. Feeling less optimistic about that. Not that I ever thought he was going to be anything, but they are running the shit out of the ball. That much is clear. In fact, you buy Bijan this year. What do you buy? Do you buy, sell, the strategy of keeping him as a rookie keeper in round 1 next year if you're David? It's a high cost. We know this year rookies can be kept in the first 2 rounds. Non-rookies cannot. Early impressions, is this a keepable guy at a first round cost?
I think he potentially is. I think some of this will hinge on how poorly David finishes this season and what draft pick he could have next season. If you have a chance for Josh Allen or Mahomes next season, do you keep Bijan? Maybe not. If
Yeah.
you're back in like the middle rounds, middle first round, you probably keep him.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, last one here. We're going to do buy sell. We touched on it earlier. Fenchy's team, a great first week, certainly not seventh place, on the backs of the wide receivers. So, Brandon Aiyuk, Calvin Ridley, both had big weeks. I think both top 5 wide receivers in week 1. Bill, we're going to start with you. Is Brandon Aiyuk a wide receiver 1 the rest of the season? Top 10 guy, bona fide starting wide receiver 1 on your fantasy team?
Look, Aiyuk, I think he's going to put up numbers the rest of the year. Is he a top 10? Is that the question? Top 10 guy?
Yeah.
I think he's right around there. There's some other guys who Fenchy has too, Ridley, who is a solid performer as well. So I don't know, probably I don't know. I'll sell it. He's just outside the top 10.
Just outside the top 10 for Bill Pesh. Buy sell Aiyuk as a top 10 wide receiver.
I'm buying Aiyuk. I'm buying him all day. There's been rumblings about him in the league, for months, weeks, years that he's gonna be a breakout player. I thought it was coming, and that's why I offloaded Deebo Samuels. This Aiyuk's team now in terms of catching the ball. I'm all for Aiyuk.
All right, we're back. We had a nice little Zoom enforced end to our buy sell session there, but we were with our last session there. I think we're all fairly high on Aiyuk. Bill has him outside the top 10. Pesh, and I think he very well could be a top 10 guy the rest of the season. So we'll see what happens there. Our final segment of the night, we're bouncing it back to, what is this? 5-year tradition of some sorts. Bill sometimes does it, sometimes does. He's kind of, classic Bill, doesn't know if he wants to do it or not. But we're going back to the Bills power rankings. Bill, week 1, only 1 week to see. We got a draft, we got keepers, we got week 1. Why don't you start from the back, of course? Who is dragging it up for you after week 1? Who is our loser? Who's our last place team?
I'll start off at 10. 10, we have Mac. And this is really surprising. Mac is our champ, right? Mac won last year, and now I've got him in 10th place. His quarterbacks, he's got Geno and Goff and Mac Jones. But really what happened week 1 was Cooper Kupp got injured, right? It was Mac's beginning of second round pick, and now he's done for a while at least. So he's also got a problem at tight end. Okonkwo put up 0 points week 1. So what's Mac going to do there? We don't know. His bench looked bad. So I don't know. Mac's got a lot of question marks. Pretty much all of his starters missed their projections. But on the plus side, Mac had Mac Jones on the bench, and he put up a bunch of points. So I don't know.
Maybe a backup in the wings.
Yeah.
ESPN says they've got Mac at 8th, so they're not too far off. Pesh, any comments on Mac's team? Do you agree with him in 10th, the former champ in last place? Is that how we're doing him right now?
I'm low on Mac. I'm low on Geno Smith. I think he was a flash in the pan last season. I don't really buy it. I think he needs a little more mobility to get some points, for what I expect in terms of athleticism from him. And Antonio Brown putting up not much again today. I'm not thrilled. To Bill's point, he did upgrade. He tried to upgrade his tight end position. It looks like he's starting Musgrave this week. I don't know who that guy is, but he's got to do better than 0.
I mean, the tight end position was really bad in week 1. I'm not going to hold tight end against Mac, but yeah, a disappointing outing. 9th most points. Speaking of 9th, Bill, who is just 1 spot better than Mac?
All right, so we've got DH at 9th. So let me clarify why Mac is 10th and DH is 9th. And really it's because of injuries. What are power rankings? Power rankings are forward looking. So, we could just look at the standings and see who did well week 1, right? But these are forward looking projections. So we go off who got injured. And of course, Mac had Cooper Kupp. DH has Aaron Rodgers. That's really tough. It puts him in a tough spot. Of course, DH just beat Mac, so he's in front of him. But with Rodgers gone, I don't know. I mean, yeah, Tua looked good, but DH is kind of, in my mind, floundering right now.
I just got a quick comment on that. I mean, it's interesting you say that because, in the wings, he's got some quarterbacks. He's got a second quarterback, right? DH has Tua, and he's got Derek Carr.
I don't know if Derek Carr is going to cut it. Wasn't it last year when DH was complaining about how bad Derek Carr was?
I
I
DH
think
complains
so.
about a lot of stuff.
DH does complain about a lot of stuff. I think Derek Carr was one of those things. I think Derek Carr was also maybe a keeper, I believe. So per usual, DH talking out of multiple holes. So Dooley bought a pizza in week 1. Surely he's in 8th, Bill. You gave us Mac at 10th, DH at 9th. Who is your 8th place team?
So in 8th place, we're going to go with Curtis. We have Curtis in 8th
Curtis.
place.
Curtis is going to love hearing this.
Curtis's team put up 484 points week 1. Not the worst, right? But you look at his quarterbacks and Daniel Jones, Matt Stafford, Bryce Young, now Zach Wilson. I don't know what he's thinking there. Also, a couple of injuries with Eckler and James Conner. They each have some Q's next to their name. But also, you look at his bench, and his bench just isn't really putting up points. So you question the depth there. On the positives, I'll give Curtis though with the Dobbins injury. Is the Gus bus rolling now? It might be.
Any thoughts on Kurt's team?
For it's interesting. We got 3 playoff teams from last season. They're starting off our bottom 3.
Third place last year.
That's all I gotta say. Yeah,
Third place.
That's
Gotta
interesting.
Make sure you give them that. Yeah, that's true. You've got Mac, DH, and Kurt. What is that? That 1-3-4 last year, I think. So big turnaround. You're saying that these teams, Bill, you said this is forward looking. So are you making the claim that 3 of our top 4 teams last year will be missing the playoffs this year?
At this point in the season, yeah, you gotta, the Cup injury, that's a 2nd round pick. The Rodgers was 2nd round as well. So these teams are missing huge pieces of their draft already. It doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Moving on to spot number 7. So that's our bottom 3 here. So the last of your non-playoff teams, at least after week 1, who you have in 7th?
All right, here we have Dooley. Some people might say Dooley deserves a worse ranking, but I'm not going to rank any team with Patrick Mahomes at the very bottom because you still have a shot, right? So he's got Mahomes, he's got a rookie CJ Stroud. So if CJ Stroud comes around, who knows? Dooley could be making the playoffs.
I thought you claimed earlier that Dooley would make the playoffs. I'm surprised you don't have him in 6th or 5th, or
Well,
that is true. You did give us a nice buy on Mahomes is good enough to get Dooley to the playoffs.
He's
got
close.
Him ranked
he's
tier
right.
7.
He's right there. He's right there.
Okay, he's right there. So he's good enough. You're just not. For now. You're saying might not happen, but good enough. Theoretically, good enough to get Dooley to the playoffs.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Coming in at 6. So theoretically, these are your playoff teams. Who do you got at 6th?
All right, 6. We're going with David. I mean,
what team is that?
David.
So David's
Bill, why don't you read the team name for us?
I don't have it in front of me. At 6, we're going with David. He's got Russell Wilson and Kenny Pickett at quarterback. If he comes through, David could make some splashes, but right now I see him as middle of the pack. Maybe Dooley surpasses David. It's a toss-up really between 6 and 7. You look at David's team and he's got DK Metcalf. Is DK Metcalf going to have the same year he had last year with Jackson Smith? I can't remember his last part of his name.
You got to pronounce that one too.
Can't remember that one. So is DK still going to perform as good? We don't know. He's also got Christian Kirk, and now we have Calvin Ridley back. So there's a lot of question marks. Is he going to see a regression? We don't know. You look at his bench, and his bench didn't really put up any points. I just don't know. David's kind of right there in the middle. He might be 6th, he might be 7th. On the bright side, I'll give David that he gets Mark Andrews back next week, and he made it through week 1 pretty much unscathed. No injuries, really.
Yeah, I mean, he made it through week 1 unscathed, but he still came out with an L. Lost to me. He's got no depth, no bench. I don't see much on this team. I don't see much in this manager. Yeah, just saying.
Interesting.
Interesting with the manager.
Yeah, interesting what the manager did.
I'll plant my flag a little bit here too. I said it during keepers. I said it after the draft. I think David's in the running for the last place team. I think I think it's a bit of poor management. I hated the keepers. I hated Christian Kirk in the sixth. I hated Damian Pierce in the fifth, and I hated Mark Andrews in the fourth, and I hated drafting Russell Wilson in the third. So, Bijan, you couldn't fuck that up, but I don't like much else. Everything was expensive, and I don't see a lot of like future pieces either outside of Bijan. So, I think if I'm doing the power rankings, I got him in ninth or 10th.
He let Jordan Love go. He could have kept Jordan Love.
Terrible decision, candidly. Yeah, draft Russell Wilson in the third. Keep Jordan Love in the 12th. Something like that for 3 years maybe. So, yeah, I don't like the choices. Bill, who is fifth place? Power rankings. We're in the top 5 now. Who you got in fifth?
And we got Hassett at 5, right? And I know what you guys are thinking. Hassett puts up 631 points. His team's showing up. Why is he in fifth? Well, look, guys, like I said, this goes back to injuries.
Good question.
And who did Hassett lose? He lost J.K. Dobbins. So, I know his whole team wasn't dependent on J.K. Dobbins, but I will say now that Dobbins is out, Hassett, you need a new team name. But he also lost Kenneth Gainwell.
We're gonna honor him.
He also lost Kenneth Gainwell. I'm just looking at Hassett's team, and you can't expect the defense to put up 140 points every week, and Tyreek 157. I don't think it's happening again. Hassett, you looked really good week 1, but I don't see it continuing.
Pesh, what are your thoughts?
I mean, we're filming this on Thursday night. I'm looking at the result right now. Hassett's got a nice lead on me. Not too happy about that. Looks like Jordan Addison did a little bit. Hockenson did a little bit. I would say, Dobbins is a loss, but, Breece Hall surprised us all. And, he might be able to step right in. I think he's better in 5. He's perennially a pretty good manager. I'd probably put him in a top 3 spot. Doesn't mean he'll do anything in the playoffs, but I think he might, win a regular season championship or come in second place.
I'd love to get back into the regular season championship drum. I'll comment in, obviously, just because it's my team. Dobbins a huge loss. I think the running backs are weak, but Breece Hall looked good. Defense was a big boost, but it comes and goes. With the flip side of that was the low Dak outing. We'll see. Well, I definitely don't think it's a number 1 team as the pizza grants me in week 1, but yeah, I'm hoping for greater than 5th. So, speaking of my opponent in week 1, Bill, a little preview. You've got Sean in 4th. I just whooped him. Why is Sean ranked ahead of me?
Yeah, you beat Sean by nearly 200 points. Like I said, going back to injuries, you lost Dobbins. Sean, he's pretty much unscathed week 1. So yeah, he has tight end problems. There's some question marks, but on the bright side, Sean had a couple of bench players come through and put up points. So, overall, I like Sean moving forward.
All right.
Into the top 3. That leaves us with, in no particular order, Fentress, Bill, and Pesh. Who you got at 3rd?
I got Pesh at 3. Pesh still put up 537. I'm not concerned about Burrow's 23. He's going to add 100 points to that next week, probably. Pesh is injury free. He has balanced scoring. He's got this rookie Puka who put up some pretty insane numbers week 1. So I like Pesh's team. I think it impressed me week 1, and plus now after 1 week he's even closer to Kamara and Jonathan Taylor coming back.
How you feeling about your team? How you feeling about the 3rd power ranking?
I think I have one of the more balanced teams. I think I have some practice squad players that give me some hope in 6 weeks from now. I think, I got players come off the bench. I got a deep bench. I got players I can rotate in and out. I think I should probably be ranked a little bit higher, but,
higher than 3rd? Pesh.
Higher than 3rd.
Yeah, trust the
Yeah,
process.
he wants 1st or 2nd, clearly. Yeah, I think Pesh is a good team. I made it clear that I liked his keepers coming in. Love Amon-Ra. Curious to see what happens to Garrett Wilson. Man, you really hope the ceiling that he had doesn't just tank, and it might. So that's a big that'll be interesting to watch. A lot of discussion about Deshaun Watson. I didn't think he looked great, but he still put up 92 points. So we'll see what happens there. So Bill, are you going to blow yourself into 1st, or are you going to give Fenchy the treat? Who's going to just miss out? Who's number 2?
You know, Fentress, you've been in the league, what is it, 6, 7 years at this point. And so I'd like to say congratulations, but you are not quite in first place yet, but you're in second. So I like your team, Fench, though. You've got a lot of young strength at quarterback. On the negative side, Deontay Johnson got hurt, so I think he's going to miss. Was he going to miss like four weeks at least, maybe? So you got it. I think you're going to start Gabe Davis this week. You know, we don't know. That's a question mark. But on the plus side, you had some really good players week one. Calvin Ridley, Aiyuk, as we mentioned earlier. Jordan Love put up a bunch of a fuck ton of points. McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, you put up 577, and I think it's going to pass 600 a lot of the season.
A lot of the season. That'd be a strong outing. We've talked a lot about Fenchy's team. Pesh, anything to add before we get to number one?
I don't think I need to add anything to that. So I like the team.
There we go. All right, number one overall team. Bill grants himself the number one overall power ranking. Bill, defend this selfish act.
Sure. Yeah. Look, guys, I understand that you're going to look at my team and say, he just lost week one. Why the fuck is he first? I think Lamar and Jalen Hurts show up a little bit better than they have been. So, and we saw some positives on my practice squad. So, I don't know. I'm going to keep myself at first. If I lose again, maybe we'll reconsider. But for now, we're staying at the top.
There you go. So Bill gives himself first. For the record, ESPN has Pesh first and Bill second right now. So, some question marks there. I'm looking over at Fantasy Pros as well. They've got Bill, Pesh, and Hassett 1, 2, 3. So we might have lucked out a little bit planning this podcast. Week one, all three teams looking pretty solid. Of course, there's only one loser on this call, but there's your power ranking. Mac in 10th, all the way down to Bill in first. Fenchy in second, a big shot up for him. Hassett and Sean 4, 5 after their matchup this week, and DH, Kurt, Dooley, David rounding out the rear. All right, so that just about wraps up episode 1 for the Get Fucked Tree Hills podcast, the GFTH podcast. We're going to wrap things up here. We're going to do a little forward looking, make a few predictions for week 2. Let's start from the top here. So going down the matchups here for week 2, I'm going to give you guys the projections, and then you're going to very quickly, one word, who's your winner for the week. So let's start here at the bottom. I've got Sean projected in a very tight one right now. He's projected 510 over Mac at 506. Pesh, who you got?
I got Mac on this one.
Mac in a close projection. Bill's got Sean. It sounds like this one's looking close right now. We're filming this live. It is Thursday night. Neither team looks good right now. A down night from A.J. Brown, Alexander Madison, and Goddard, even though I'm staring at something like 48 points here. Okay, on to the next one. We've got Fenchy and Kurt. We talked a lot about Fenchy's team. Fenchy's team is projected 588 over Kurt, 570 right now. Another close projection. Bill, who you got?
I got Fench.
Fench
for around the board there. Clean sweep. I'll probably take Fenchy there as well. All right, let's go over to DH and Dooley. DH projected a lower scoring matchup here, projected 524 to beat Dooley, 495. How are we feeling, Pesh? Who do you like?
Yeah, I got DH. I don't even know if Dooley's going to win it this season at all.
I've got to stand behind my power rankings. I'll go with Dooley.
All right, so Dooley taking home the win in week 2, first win of the season. Bill, let's go over to your matchup. A big projection difference right now. Bill's own number 1 team, my own 10th place team. Bill versus David. Big projection gap right now. Bill, I'm sure you're taking yourself. Pesh, who are you taking here?
Yeah, I got Bill on this one. Unfortunately, I got Bill.
Bill in a clean sweep. In the last matchup here that we'll go through, we've got 2 of us on the call. We've got myself taking on Pesh. I did mention we're filming this live during Thursday night. I'm currently whooping that ass. I got 2 touchdowns across 2 players, but Pesh had the bigger projection coming into the week. We're tight right now according to projections. Bill, who you got?
I'll go Pesh. I got Pesh. I'll go Pesh.
You're taking Pesh. Pesh, I heard earlier you still think this matchup is yours?
Yeah, I believe in my team. I'm gonna go with Pesh.
There you go. I'm gonna take I'll take my slight lead, and I'm gonna carry that to victory, 2-0, top of the league. Episode 1 in the books. None of us have ever done this before. We'll try to do it a few times throughout the season. So until next time, this is Dynasty Champ Alpesh Patel, 3-time champion and current number 1 power ranking Bill Struthers, And you've got your commissioner Hassett here. We'll see you guys next time.
Illuminati's real.
Tree Hills, we're starting over. Name for this thing? Pesh,
Yeah, I
what
hope
were
it's
you
not
thinking?
bad.
You want to give the audience a little bit of a preview of our first ever podcast. Will officially be called Pesh.
Did you say Pesh or Bill?
Jesus, I said Pesh. Go. All right, hold on.
Yeah. So I
Start
think
over.
Yeah.
All right. This one will be fine. I think this is what professionals do. They clap when they have cuts. Sack. Ooh, sack Eagles, sack fumble, return. Okay.
I'm gonna edit this part.
No, I think
Dude, this was fun, guys.
Yeah. Even if it's just for us, it was kind of fun.